But what she's missed is her own celebrity. Because wherever she used to go, everyone was thrilled to see her. Well, everybody loves to see a guide dog, don't they? Yes. So now, she, anybody who comes around, she's like, "Hi, I'm Laura. Hi." The rest of the animal kingdom took advantage. The deer started coming into the garden and eating the roses. Yeah. Squirrels giving me the finger from the trees. The fox took the hens. Everything went to pieces without any terriers on the patch.
That's great. You just described like Snow White meets Margaret Atwood. It's kind of like a mad dystopian.
They were worried that if they're operating on the table, perhaps exposing bones to a dog isn't a good idea. But luckily, the medical detection dog was smart enough to tell the difference between a patient and a snack, and keep out of the way. But it just goes on and on and on. A good death is as important to a life as a good life.
Well, it's nicely put. Let's get straight down to business to our guest today, a much-loved face on our TV screens, best known for starring the likes of Doc Martin and Men Behaving Badly. He's back with his second book, Meeting with Remarkable Animals. Welcome to the top of the tower, Martin Clunes. Hello, Martin. Nice to see you.
Hey, Ryan. How you doing?
And thanks for being with us today. Congratulations on your beautiful, beautiful book, because it's warm and it's heartwarming and it's kind.
Oh, that's nice of you. Yeah, well, that was the intention. And Penguin have done a lovely job of packaging it.
Do you know what? It's appropriate, isn't it, that we're here on the radio today, because you tell this beautiful story of how you were listening to the radio one day and you heard this lovely conversation, or at least this story being told that resulted in your encounter with a beautiful dog. Can you recap that for us a little bit?
Yeah, it was a program called Life Changing on Radio 4, and there was a lady called Jana Mystery who was talking about how when she was 17, she'd had a freak reaction to penicillin, which had basically made her body attack itself, especially her lungs and her eyes, and she'd lost her sight. And going on that journey, she hadn't really enjoyed using a long cane. She was scared of dogs because she'd had a bad encounter with one when she was younger, but eventually met up with someone who had a guide dog, and then she got matched with this guide dog, Laura, who completely changed her life and gave her independence, gave her status. Everybody likes to talk to the guide dog, don't they? Even though they shouldn't. And turned her life around. But at the time she was doing this radio program, she was staring down the face of retiring Laura, because the charity are very strict about the welfare of the animal. And when they reach 11, is the ceiling, they came and they took Laura's harness away, so Jana couldn't work her, and then COVID struck. Anyway, blah-de-blah. I listened to this story, and Jana was sort of talking about having to now find a new dog, and I just emailed the program and I said, well, we could give that dog a nice retirement if she wanted to come to us. And then slowly, bit by bit, I reached out and spoke to Jana, and then got vetted by the charity, and Laura's been living with us nearly 2 years now.
Wow.
And she loves her life. She demands carrots with menace. She goes out, we've got stables here, she goes out in the yard and woofs until someone gives her a carrot.
I didn't know.
And then
dogs.
she lies down and holds it between her front paws.
Yeah.
And chomps on it.
Is that really? What a beautiful story. You don't, like, in my ignorance, I never think about what happens to the retired guide dogs.
Yeah.
And of course, it's people like you who say, you raise your hand and say, I'll take them on and bring them on. But the guide dogs have done, it's like that Shakespeare, like, they've done the state some service. They've
Absolutely.
Haven't they? They've done their bit.
They really have. And the saddest thing, I mean, she loves it. We're on a farm here, and she runs for joy. But what she's missed is her own celebrity, because wherever she used to go, everyone was thrilled to see her. Well, everybody loves to see a guide dog, don't they? Yes. So now, she, anybody who comes around, she's like, "Hi, I'm Laura. Hi."
And if she could speak, she would say, "I used to be somebody,
Yes, you probably see me on the telly. Yeah.
You might remember me from such walks as. But Laura joined your house, Martin. But joined your house with obviously a lot of company, because you don't have just a house; you have a menagerie. Can you list what is currently living with you and who's currently living with you?
So at the moment in the house, we've got Laura, 2 blind Cocker Spaniels, Heidi and her idiot son Bob Jackson. And 2, this is where we've gone wrong, 2 8-month-old Jack Russell puppies.
Yeah.
they've ruined our lives basically.
Yeah.
But we had two situations vacant. We lost a couple of terriers earlier in the year,
Yeah.
and weirdly, the rest of the animal kingdom took advantage. The deer started coming into the garden and eating the roses.
Yeah.
Squirrels giving me the finger from the trees. The fox took the hens. Everything went to pieces without any terriers on the patch. But now these two are like a whirlwind. We're safe again.
That's great. You just described like Snow White meets Margaret Atwood. It's kind of like a mad dystopian. You know, the animals taking advantage of what was meant to be a pastoral idyll. When you talk about animals in your book, you give them a sort of, you elevate them. People say animals. You make animals, even the words sound unfair, that they're elevated, and you even mention the fact that you cry really more over the death of an animal than you might over a human.
Well, I just in my life, there's been a lot of come on now, you've got to be brave when people die. My dad died when I was very young, and there was lots of talk of being grown up and containing these things, and we're kind of curious, I think, in the UK about death, that it's almost shameful. A private ambulance comes and whisks the body away, and it's hidden until it comes back packaged in a wooden box, and we're all a bit funny about it. But when a pet dies, I don't think those hard and fast guidelines or pressures are in place. And this is just a personal belief, but I sort of think it opens up a channel to all those griefs that we haven't let out in the past because of this allowance that we give ourselves with animals. Because I know I've been curled up on the floor when animals have gone. Yeah. And, I'm putting a horse down. My God, that's not funny. Yeah. That's a mighty animal to fell. But, yes, that's just a personal thing. But I do think there is an allowance of grief with a pet.
I appreciate that. And I was going to say, as you're speaking, you should come to Ireland. You'd love an Irish funeral because they really go for it. I mean, the deceased is sitting in the living room, essentially, well, not sitting, lying in state, and people come and visit them. It's called a wake, as I'm sure you've heard of. And
You know
this. It's a real sense of occasion.
With an open coffin.
That's not all the time.
Yeah,
but
yeah. I think that's a really healthy way
isn't
of
it? Yeah.
confronting it. Yes, because somebody was saying the other day, and it resonated with me. A good death is as important to a life as a good life.
Well, that's nicely put. Can you stick around for a couple of minutes, Martin? We just have a quick bit of music to play. Martin Clunes joining us on the show live today. Really enjoying your company so far. Stay with us. Martin Clunes, our guest today. His beautiful book's called Meetings with Remarkable Animals. Martin, maybe just give us the elevator pitch, if you would, on your beautiful book.
Yeah, so it kind of came out of the idea of us adopting Laura and finding out, just the whole industry that surrounds guide dogs and quite how amazing it is. Starting from the very first person who had the idea of pairing a partially sighted person with a dog. Somebody must have gone, did you say dog? They're idiots. But it turns out they're not. And just the audacity of some of the people who've then gone on to like medical detection dogs, they're fantastic.
Yeah.
We interviewed a lady who's so gung-ho who trains them that they're now just pushing the envelope, trying to find new things that dogs can sniff out. For instance, there's a story about a girl from Ireland, actually, who desperately wanted to be a vet her whole life. And then she got this awful thing, which is called POTS, or postural tachycardia, anyway, something like that, syndrome, which basically means you drop like a stone with no warning and pass out. And for a young lady, obviously very debilitating, but all her life she'd grown up around animals and she loved going to the vets. I think her father kept some ponies and some animals, and she just desperately wanted to be a vet, but had this terrible debilitating illness and condition. And then she went to live on her own. And kept just passing out at night and kept having to admit herself to A&E with these terrible bruises. They were worrying about whether she was being battered or something. And anyway, she got paired up with this dog.
Yes.
And I can't remember the dog's name now.
That's okay.
But the dog will raise a paw and say, you need to go and sit down.
Wow.
You're about to have a fall.
Wow.
And sometimes she can even the dog can now even detect the severity of it.
Yeah.
And she'll start, she'll make more of a show if it's going to be bad. It's like, no, you really need to lie down.
Yeah.
But the amazing thing is, she's empowered this girl to go on and do her studies and start practicing as a vet. And they were worried that if they're operating on the table, perhaps exposing bones to a dog isn't a good idea. But luckily, the medical detection dog was smart enough to tell the difference between a patient and a snack, and keep out of the way. But it just goes on and on and on. And there's the African pouched rats who some nutter decided to make a harness for, and there's that rats now. The rats are mind detecting because they're not. What are you doing, love? I'm just making a harness for the rat.
Not another
They
one.
send him along a wire, and he can clear an area that's been mined,
Wow.
10 times quicker than men, because he's not heavy enough to trigger the mine.
It's amazing.
And they're now using those same rats to go into containers, and they're sniffing out when people are smuggling endangered species and things. The rats can go where even the dogs can't. In between the packages on the containers.
It's
pretty amazing.
It's remarkable. I mean, like the book's called Meeting with Remarkable Animals. I mean, what a well-titled study of it all. And I'm thinking back to the story you tell in the book about, I'm always fascinated by the great teacher in life, the teacher who spots the kid and says, you need to go that way. And in your case, it was like, go through that door and you're out among the animals. And you were, at boarding school, you were only 8 when your dad died. So you were probably a bit at sea and you didn't really want to go to boarding school, but your family thought it was a good idea. So you're there, and this teacher said, go and hang out with the animals. And I think you suddenly, if that teacher hadn't said turn left out that door, maybe we wouldn't be here talking about this today. Who knows?
It could be, Ryan. And the funny thing is that it was the act of doing, collecting all these truths and stories together, of writing this book, that sort of made me realize what a good decision that was, because I was sent off to boarding school as a massive bedwetter, so not exactly cherished in the dormitory. And they put me down in matron's room downstairs all on my own.
Yeah.
And Mr. Huggett, the biology teacher, said, why don't you go? And there was a great menagerie there. There was a sheep. Sometimes there was a donkey came to stay. There were turkeys, hens, pheasants, quails, and they all had to be let out and put away every night, and let out in the morning and fed and put away at night. And he gave me that responsibility, this sort of smelly lad, to go out with the other animals. It does resonate with me. And still, if I've got a gate or something that needs fixing on the farm, I'll take a dog with me. It used to be Jim, my Jack Russell, who was my complete right hand, but I have to train up one of the new ones. But that sort of sense of just me on my own, but I'm not on my own if I've got an animal with me.
Yeah, you sound like a latter-day Gerald Jarrell, my family.
Yeah, maybe. I think he was a bit smarter than me.
No, I wouldn't say so. When I said you were coming on the show, somebody across the way said, please mention the Nativity movie and the donkey. Can you describe to people in this time of Christian Christmas goodwill and greetings, what happened to you and the donkey in that film?
The donkey kicked me in the head and I lost my memory.
How are you? How are you these days, Mark?
And when you lose your memory in a completely improvised film, with a cast of under 12-year-olds, they didn't even tell me what was going to happen every day, because I was supposed to have lost my memory and it was improvised.
And how was that? Was that fun or chaotic?
It was fun. It was a new experience. A lot of people will be relieved to hear that I won't repeat it. I'll stick to a nicely well-written script. I'm no improviser, but it was a great experience, and it enabled us to buy our first tractor on the farm, which considerably changed our fortunes. Yeah,
the HSS Amnesia, that tractor, duly named. Martin, it's been lovely to talk to you. Let's do it again sometime in the new year. But in the meantime, congratulations on the book, Meeting with Remarkable Animals. Beautiful stories, so well recounted by you in the book. But also really enjoyed our chat today. Happy Christmas to you and your family and your menagerie.
Oh, well, thanks, Ryan, and the same right back at you. Cheers, mate. Thank you very much.
Bye for now.